Hey followers, this is your boy, movie maker Doug55, and I'm also the author of Mose and the Great Escape, and From Green Flags to Blue Flags 2, The Amazing Comeback of an Autistic Spokesperson. Today I have two special guests with me today, my coach and mentor, Andy McPhee, and I also have G. Cunningham. Welcome, guys.
Thank you. Hi, G. Hey, G. Thanks for joining us and making this time work, even though probably where you are in Melbourne, because I'm in Los Angeles, Doug is in Phoenix, Arizona. You guys really are sort of locked down anyway, right? For a certain amount of time. So,
yeah, I feel like I'm doing something wrong just going for a walk, honestly. I'm like,
yeah, why am I locked down? And look, just mentioning Doug's, I'm not sure, G, if you know, you probably do, but Doug's last book he shared, From Green Flags to Blue Flags 2, is actually floating between 300 and 400 bestseller on Amazon internationally, and round about 15th to 20th, bestseller in the UK. So it's very cool that he's, gone from his journey of autism and anxiety and depression to someone one day as a teenager said, "Oh, I hear you like writing. Why don't you write a book?" And he's written eight since, and we're on his seven, and we're on his eighth book. We're doing a science fiction, so it's quite an achievement. And having guests like yourself on has grown quite big now. It's gone from 10 series to, I don't know, probably 20 or 30 now. We just have more people coming on, just sharing their journey of achievements of whatever they've dealt with in life. So I'll hand it back to Doug, and he can start our session with G. Cunningham from Melbourne, Australia.
Nice, led by Doug Kenny from Phoenix, Arizona, and Andy McPhee from Los Angeles.
Yeah. What are you up to now? Like, I know I've heard you're doing a bit of creative work. Doug shared with me that you were talking to him about some of the arts. What are you actually doing now in the creative world? What are you studying or doing?
well, I recently got back into acting classes and singing classes. It's definitely interesting doing it all online right now, but I feel like it's also helping me prepare for when I travel, so I can still so I'm more comfortable getting into this stuff for the future without feeling like I have to learn it instantly. But yeah, before quarantine, I did a lot of dance classes. I even started circus classes.
Oh wow!
But yeah, I mainly just do singing and acting. Acting's my biggest thing. Yeah.
You do a little bit of artwork too, because I've seen it on your social media, right?
Yeah, I do some visual art. I did it a lot more as a child, but it's definitely been a good, especially in high school, it was a good outlet for me. I had a visual journal. I would draw in it when I was having bad days or in classes. I was allowed to draw in class because it helped keep me present and in the classroom.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't do it as much anymore, but yeah.
And so I think Doug's, I know Doug's got a couple of questions around what you just shared with us and what's behind all that as well.
Yeah, so my next question after that is, for some listeners it might sound easy to go into the arts, but it hasn't really been that easy for you, and why is that?
Well, I was born with a mild to moderate hearing impairment, but now it's more of a moderate to severe deafness. But also I've had quite a traumatic upbringing. I also have borderline personality disorder, which got diagnosed or misdiagnosed while growing up, which led to a lot of bumps in the road. But yeah.
Wow, that's just sounds extremely stressful to someone who is not dealing with that. So to see you like looking at you now, and I know you because I was fortunate enough to meet you in an acting class at TAFTA in Australia, and I was just really impressed with your tenacity to keep going. And I know you shared a few things with me back then, how difficult it was for you, like your anxiety and things would come up. But the thing is, G, you don't give up, and that's amazing. So can you share a little bit of how you kept in action to keep being in action, to do things that are positive for you rather than just living in what your body's doing? Now, I'll just give you one quick quote. It's such a beautiful quote. Doug and myself interviewed Janine. Doug, would you like to just share with G and the viewers what Janine has, what happened to her in her life and how she used that quote of "my body doesn't define who I am"? And she's done amazing stuff.
Yeah, the other day we interviewed Janine Shepherd. She has a towering reputation in Australia, as she has the member of the Order of Australia. And I really believe if she pursues her goal of getting a PhD, she'll probably get a higher rank in that eventually. But yeah, she had an injury while I think she said she was practicing for the Olympics.
Yeah. Actually, no. Yeah, you're right. It wasn't an injury. It was a horrific accident. Nearly killed her. She got run over by a truck while she was training for the Olympics, and she ended up a paraplegic. Keep going, Doug.
So she decided soon after the doctor told her she wasn't going to walk again, an airplane flew over her, and she said, "Then I'm going to fly." She took that as the writing on the wall.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, what she said was, when the doctor told her that, and it was on the day, one of the days close to when she was leaving hospital, and she said she saw a plane fly and said, "Well, if I can't walk, I'm going to fly." She ended up becoming a pilot. She got a pilot's license. She became a commercial pilot. Then she became an aerobatics pilot, and now she instructs aerobatics. She said, I said, "What, you mean you're doing planes flying upside down?" And all that. She said, "Yeah, all that," strapped in with her plaster cast on, and she's written books. She's a TED talker, so she's amazing, right, Doug? Incredible lady.
Very incredible. And she called me a friend afterwards.
Yeah, and that's it's the same thing with what you're dealing with. I mean, hers was intense, but yours is intense. Doug was intense, and it's how you're dealing with it, which I think is great, that you're not allowing your body, what's going on it, to define who you are and what you want to be. So how did you do that? How did you, I don't even know what the right word to use is, like, just how did you have the right choices to keep going where you are now, which is a really happy looking woman? You look extremely bright and glowing, and you're dealing with things a lot of people wouldn't know what it's like to deal with.
Well, as for my deafness, some people think it's the end of the world, and some people think, I never, especially as a kid, I could never comprehend why it was so bad to be different. Like, I could still sing, and people said I could sing, but then other people really put me down saying I couldn't because I was deaf. I got bullied in school. But I don't know, I just kind of had that drive to prove that, yes, I'm deaf, but I'm still doing the same things you're doing. And as for my mental health, I have borderline personality disorder, so I feel every emotion heightened and intense. So I think it's just, I had that constant drive of, I don't want to be in this big emotional pain. Like, when I have bad moments, I literally scream, "It hurts." That's how painful it is to be in a heightened emotion for me. Like, you would think I just broke my ankle or something, but no, it's my brain just on overdrive. I'm not going to lie, I did start losing faith in myself and my drive in my first year of uni, but I feel like that the main cause of that was misdiagnosis, limited treatment out there. but because with BPD you need the right type of treatment, so everything else was like putting a band-aid on it, and I was feeling very just, I lost faith. Like I kept going back, I kept doing the work on bettering myself, but it just kept coming back or getting worse. And then I'm like, I got to a point where why bother? It's not doing anything. But then I was fortunate enough to stick to it because I didn't want to be in this continuous state of emotional pain. And I was fortunate enough to find a very good psychologist, and he diagnosed me with BPD, and it just all fell into place. And then the treatment's been amazing since then.
Wow.
That's really incredible.
Yes. Sorry, Doug, go on.
That's really incredible. And I have to be honest with you, I was bullied growing up too. And I plan to describe certain aspects of my bullying in an anti-bullying podcast that I'm going to do with Jerry Trimble. I'm not going to reveal names, obviously, but we're doing an anti-bullying podcast, hoping to spread the word.
Yeah, and I think it's important to do that. Like Jerry and myself have been friends for 15 years, and I know Jerry's an anti-bullying advocate, and he speaks. I've been with him in LA when he's working with the LAPD and working with young street kids. He does the same in Vancouver. And I said, well, Jerry, we should get together and you and myself will do an anti-bullying discussion, because I completely understand where that comes from, and my journey going through life. And Doug's been bullied, and I thought, well, here's another opportunity on Doug's channel. We'll start dealing with that. And I don't think people sometimes realise, when you've never dealt with those issues. I was never bullied. I wasn't bullied. If I was, it ended up pretty quickly with someone getting a punch in the nose, and that stopped the bullying. But I'm not saying that's what you meant to do, but that's what I did. But I get it, and it is traumatic when you're bullied, and especially nowadays where cyberbullying is that's just out of control, and it's probably 1,000 times worse for people because they can't escape it, because it's on their phone, it's on social media. Did you deal with any of that at all, with cyberbullying, or was it mainly one-on-one at school?
I think it was a mixture of everything. Unfortunately, through how I personally perceive it, I feel like I had almost every single type of bullying except physical.
Wow. Yeah. And I know how it left Doug. Well, first, Doug, how did that leave you, Doug, when you went home, when you were bullied at school? What did that make you feel like?
Well, I felt terrible because it was not a pleasurable experience. I was disappointed that people didn't seem to understand me. And honestly, I think the reason I was bullied was because not only did I struggle to fit in with other students due to my Asperger's, but I think that the students, being that they were kids and all that, I don't think they understood why I was who I was. And honestly, I plan to say in the anti-bullying podcast that I plan to bring up a story that it stopped the bullying for the most part, but honestly, the bullying sort of stopped for the most part when I kind of gave a message to my classroom telling them about my Asperger's and how I wasn't in control of my actions.
Do you have any questions for G about her, her bullying?
Yeah. What was that like for you? Did people bully you because they didn't understand you like me, or was it because they just didn't like you, or what was the reason?
Unfortunately, I think the hardest part was because, especially in high school, they just found reasons. Like, there didn't have to be a reason. But the first proper experience of like school bullying I had was early primary school, based on my deafness. The school got better. It just goes to show, by educating the generations, it does get better. Like, you can prevent this, because when I was in grade 6, it got so much better. Like, kids wanted to learn Auslan. But yeah, I remember in primary school, like, a bunch of kids would walk up to me going, "Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?"
Oh, wow.
That
Or one of my biggest pet peeves is they would go,
Oh,
and
sheesh.
then they go, do you know what I just said? Oh, you couldn't because you're deaf. Oh, can't you read lips? Like read lips? And I'm like, I don't have to be deaf to know that there's no sound coming out of your mouth. Like I would get as detailed as your breathing wrong, the mouth shape's wrong. I can't read lips and I know it's all wrong. Your body does the stuff differently to produce sound.
Wow.
It was very hard as a kid because I had a very logical but an emotional mind. So I couldn't comprehend what was very obvious to me, not obvious to everyone else, which is also a part of my BPD where I struggled to comprehend, like, it's so obvious. Like it's just general knowledge, but it's not general knowledge to everyone.
Yeah, yeah. And that's, thanks for sharing that. That was, yeah, that's, sorry, there's a plane going over. I'll wait till he goes.
yeah. That's an incredible story. That's all I
Yeah,
got.
that's amazing, G. Like that, you know, like even just you telling me that, I couldn't even imagine what that would be like, having people make fun of you in your face like that. Like it's just, and
Yeah.
I know I get it, kids can be cruel, but I just don't think, you know, they really understand the impact, and that's why people do this sort of stuff. They don't realize that long-lasting impact. How did that leave you being when that was happening to you, and yet you still kept going to school?
It was hard, especially in high school, but I think it helped because I had good relationships with teachers. There was a few friends that I had, like, on and off through primary school that were hearing or deaf. And because I went to a primary school that had a deaf facility in it, so I had support teachers and everything. I don't know, it was definitely hard because I also had a lot of mental health that wasn't being treated properly, so I got triggered by almost anything. So I think bullying like that really just kept feeding my fear of abandonment, loneliness, feeling like a burden. Like I had people be nice to me in class and say, yeah, sure, we'll hang out with you, meet us here. And then they're on the other side of the school hanging out with their group kind of thing.
Wow. So can I ask you, G, because like we only have a certain amount of time in these broadcasts, but first of all, I got to keep saying you thanks for being so authentic and sharing, and Doug as well, because, you know, you two guys, what you went through, I dealt with things in my own life differently, and I don't particularly say they were the correct way to do it, but, you know, that was part of my journey, and, you know, I just wouldn't take being bullied, and I wouldn't have my kids being bullied, you know, and my daughter got bullied at school a lot because she was on the TV show Neighbours, and she was quite a large kid, you know, and she got picked on, and there's a couple of guys got a few blood noses from her. And again, I say it's not the right way, but she wasn't going. She was getting hit, like punched in the nose, pushed into lockers. I said, you need to take care of that. You know, if someone hits you, you can defend yourself. So she defended herself, and it amazingly it stopped because they were scared of her. It's like, so, you know, it is what it is. But I really admire both of you for the fact that, and since I've known Doug, like just how you guys and people who are dealing with it, some sort of impact in their life, just you don't give up, and you just keep driving forward. And some people, it's not that easy for them. They need more support, and they need more people around them to help them deal with these things. And what we're hoping in these episodes is that people get to see how you currently keep getting up every day, and you're proud of who you are, and you're not giving up. And the same as Doug, his outlet is writing, and starting, we coached him on, I said, you need to start doing more things on social media, get your face out there, start telling your story. And like he's incredible what he's been doing now, you know, like I'm learning off him now. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
So G, one thing, can I ask you, for the audience too watching, what actions are you taking to keep yourself above going into that dark patch? You know, what do you do?
Well, the biggest thing I've been working on for the last few years, I think, is like just learning to balance it, but also telling myself it's okay that things take time. Like, it's not going to happen instantly. It's definitely a roller coaster. It's not a mountain. It goes up and down, but eventually you're going to get to where you need to be. And I don't always notice the changes, but when I hear people saying such good things about how I've grown and how it was like 2 years ago and everything, I'm also like learning to accept those comments. Like, it's okay to hear that. But yeah, I'm doing dialectical behavior therapy, which is the best known treatment for BPD. And that goes into like mindfulness, check the facts, act opposite, body senses. It's like your body plays a big part on how you feel as well as your mind. But yeah, even just like acting, like I want to do it professionally, but it's really helped me so much. Like the stuff I've learned from acting, I'm also learning in DBT with all the mindfulness, and I'm like finding what works for me and everything, and it just helps so much. But yeah, I find I do a lot better when I keep in tune with my body, and I'm learning not to push my body now as well, because I also have endometriosis that I just recently found out, and it explains that why some days I might be able to do the splits, and then the next day it's like I'm never stretched in my life kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
And then I would emotionally punish myself as if the dance teacher was shouting in my head kind of thing. But yeah, I feel like I'm learning not to overload myself. So I'm learning to take time for me and continue to develop. And I've talked with like Andy, my agent, and a lot of people. It's like my mental health comes first. No matter how much I want to do it, if it gets in the way of my mental health, I'm learning to say no, because my mental health needs to come first, which it's hard, especially in an arts industry and just society. We're so used to pushing it in the corner and just driving forward. Yeah. But then we end up falling without even realizing it that way.
That's really powerful what you just said. That's so, and I'm sure Doug aligns with all that as well. Like, we have a rule that when I feel him getting a bit overwhelmed, because his deal is with Doug, he's a go-getter. You can't stop him. Like a guy who can write 520-page book in 1 month, like he's at it and at it all the time. So I have sometimes to get to him and say, okay, Doug, take 3 days off, because I don't want him to get overwhelmed. You know, and that's amazing, you know, what you're talking about, how you just keep going through it. I remember there was a little time where we were doing some, you know, one-on-one coaching, and, you know, I got to understand, even though there are such simple things we're getting you to do, what you just said explained it, that just became a bit overwhelming and you had to stop, which is great, because you know when to stop and go, no, I can't, it's not ready for me at the moment. So that's great that you know your body well enough and what to do to take care of yourself, you know.
Still a learning process, and I feel like a lot of people forget that. It's like even I still think sometimes it's like you feel like, oh, you succeeded once, you have to keep succeeding it, but that's not the case.
That's great.
So go on, Doug, what were you going to say then?
So just curious, how old are you? And
I'm 24 years old.
Nice. I'm 22. We're in the same generation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Doug, do you have any final questions before we sort of head off?
Yeah, I don't have any more questions to ask, because I think you explained it well. But I thought I'd tell you which book Andy was talking about that I wrote in this one. When I was in my sophomore year of high school, my class did NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month. where we had to write a 50,000 word manuscript in only a single month. And I was the only student to succeed in the challenge. I went overboard with it and reached 200,000 words. And and I was also the only student in my high school to actually publish the book.
Yeah. Amazing. Hey, G, just before we do end off, do you write at all? Do you do any writing?
I've, especially a few years ago, but not really novels. I feel overwhelmed by that. Right. I've done like a few little poems. I actually got some like here. Like there's this little one. It's just because we're time consumed. It's like, my heart is banging to get out, pushing through my ribs. My rib cage is vibrating. It wants to get out, to run to you, to show you the love I hide inside me. Wow,
love it.
That's great. Good poem.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, you can send Doug via messenger. Send him some of your poems, and he'll be able to put them onto the channel when it goes up. You know, even a couple of 3 or 4, and any of the other pictures you said you were going to send me, send them to me, and I'll get them to Doug, and we'll put them up there. You know.
Yeah, we'll put them up there. Yep, for sure.
Yeah, great.
God bless you, and may you have a tremendous future in acting, singing, and all that.
Yeah.
I wish you both the best as well.
Yeah,
you're amazing people.
Well, no, so gee, we all are, you know, everybody's got their own little journey, and just people like you and Doug being so powerfully authentic and not ashamed of what you're telling us, you know, like being proud of that's who you are, and you're dealing with it. You're living a life of your free will, what you want to do without being stopped and judged. And when you do get judged, then okay, you're dealing with it in a much more empowered way for yourself, because it's only their view. It's not who you are, you know, either of you, you know.
Yep. All that glitters is not gold.
Yeah. Well, thank you, G. I really appreciate you taking the time and sharing it. It's just a beautiful story, what you're doing in your life, you know.
Yeah. It's just so much, and I feel like I've only just tipped the iceberg, but that's what it's like being in our situations. I'm sure Doug can understand. People might see the tip of everything and not understand the whole story, but we have to do our best to give them what we can so people can understand.
Yeah. Well, it's like that drawing that everyone's seen, that artwork where you've got the iceberg on the water, and underneath you've got this massive base of the iceberg. Yeah, you're right. We see the tip. We have no idea what's holding you up or what you're dealing with until you share it. And then even when you share it, I can only take in what you've shared. The experience that you're dealing with emotionally, I would have no idea what that's like, but I could imagine it would be intense for, you know, both of you and other people dealing with similar things, you know.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, thank you. I appreciate both of you, you know.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll keep in touch, G. We'll keep in touch. Of course.
I think I'm also following you on Instagram, so we got multiple platforms.
Follow me on YouTube, Movie Maker 55.
I will do.
For sure. Alrighty, I want to thank all of my friends for coming on board tonight. And whenever you guys have a chance, check out my latest screenplay, a 715-page long screenplay titled Ray Guns Achronos, War on Claudiusville, Part 1, The New Heroes.
Woohoo!
Can you guess how long it took me to write that one?
How long?
3 months.
Oh, wow. How long is it going to take us to watch the movie?
I think the part 1 will need 3 parts.
I think so. All righty. Well, thanks again, G. Appreciate you, and thanks for taking the time, and you too, Doug.
Thank you. Have a splendid evening. All right, followers. If you enjoyed this interview, please follow me on YouTube at Movie Maker Doug 55. Please follow my coach and mentor, Andy McPhee, on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And please follow G. Cunningham on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube as well. And we'll see you next time on Being Relentless and Unstoppable.